Thank you and welcome to the April 13th, 6:30 p.m. City Council meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag. Clerk, would you read the rules to speak, please?
Yes. Individuals wishing to speak on public and non-public hearing agenda items must complete a sign-up card and present it to the clerk prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearing must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Sign-up and oath cards are available on the table in the council chamber. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Citizens shall not comment on any issues more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions or requests must address the pending issue, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on agenda items. Citizens wishing to speak on the consent agenda must submit a comment card identifying the items of interest. Speakers shall be given 3 minutes per item. However, citizens wishing to speak on more than 3 consent agenda items shall be limited to speaking for a total of 10 minutes regardless of the number of items identified.
Thank you very much. And I would like to go ahead and add too, Ms. Wells, I appreciate what you do down there on a meeting basis. And you sit in that corner and we don't really get a chance to say good job, but I will say right now before we get started, especially since it's already 7:25, good job.
Good job.
Council, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from several previous meetings?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting on January 26, 2021 at 5:30, February 9th, 2021, and March 9th, 2021, and the special city council meeting on February 18th, 2021.
Like I said, several.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call vote.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager, special recognitions and requests.
Yes, sir. The first is on item 5A. This is a proclamation for Pastor Peter Lloyd Day. Mayor Diesel will present a proclamation proclaiming March 4th, 2021 as Pastor Peter Lord Day. Official proclamation of the City of Titusville, whereas Pastor Peter Lord was born on November 19th, 1929 in Kingston, Jamaica, and whereas Pastor Peter Lord, as a young age, 16, left Jamaica to come to the United States to attend college at Bob Jones University, and whereas, at Bob Jones University, Pastor Peter Lord met and married his wife, Johnny Bell Sapp, on June 30th, 1951, and together they raised 5 children. And whereas after college, Pastor Lord attended New Orleans Theological Seminary, where he spent the last 54 years ministering in Titusville and around the world. During the course of his ministry, he served as pastor of 6 different locations and was the founding pastor of Park Avenue Baptist Church. And whereas Pastor Lord was well-known figure and highly respected in the Christian community here in Titusville and beyond, his ministry accomplishments included published author, conference speaker, and while pastor of Park Avenue Baptist Church, he expanded the church to include a retreat center, a prayer chapel, and a kindergarten through 8th grade Christian school, all built debt-free. And whereas in 2009, Pastor Lord was influential in organizing the Joseph Fund. More than $100,000 was raised by the Church of One to support families with short-term financial assistance affected by the layoffs at the Kennedy Space Center. And whereas Pastor Lord has devoted his life and ministry to prayer and biblical teaching, his kingdom of God mentally has been a uniting force in our local community, embracing all denominations and ethnicities. Now, therefore, I, Daniel E. Diesel, by the authority vested in me as mayor, proclaim March 4th, 2021 as the day Pastor Peter Lord's beginning his life in heaven as Pastor Peter Lord Day. as proclaimed our appreciation for his untiring service to mankind, especially to people of the city of Titusville. Signed, Daniel E. Diesel, Mayor.
Thank you very much, City Manager. I honestly don't know if I will have a higher honor in my 4 years as mayor than being a part of this. It says right here, Pastor Peter Lord was a well-known figure and highly respected in the Christian community here in Titusville and beyond. I don't know anybody who had more impact on more people than he did. I said earlier back there that he's iconic. And I was kidding around. I talked about Pitbull, talks about being Mr. Worldwide. Well, Peter Lord is Mr. Worldwide. And I want to tell you something. I personally was going to church there with a girlfriend of mine back in the old high school days. And that's when I first realized how important he was. And he remains important in my life. And I cannot say enough about Peter Lord. I cannot say enough about your family or your church. And with that, Council, is there anything anybody wants to say on this one?
First time, and you look just like him to me for sure. So I wrote this, and you know, Peter has written many books for sure. But one that actually touched my heart was When Your Child Wanders from God. And that one, of course, I can say I had to go through a lot with one of my kids for sure. But it was amazing to me how if you just keep focused on God, how you can go through anything. And I think the reason why we have to go through certain things in our lives is to make sure we understand that our strength doesn't come from within, but it comes from God himself. So I said, to honor Peter Lord today is the least we can do. He was a preacher's preacher, a teacher's teacher, a father's father, and a Christian's Christian. To know him was to love him and adore him. Kindness and blessing is always on his lips. Jesus has always been his stronghold. I remember the overheads, the light pointer, his laugh. He had a strange laugh to me. His knowledge and his wisdom. Yes. I also remember that he knew who he was. He knew his faults, and he knew that only God can save us from our sins. Because of Peter, we all have a greater understanding of God's grace and his importance in our lives, and I will always remember Peter's words to keep the main thing, the main thing. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Jim. Thank you to the Lord family. He was a great man of God with us, and as the saying goes, one only misses the water when the well runs dry. Well, today Peter has gone to heaven. He's among the angels. He's not among us anymore, but he has written indelibly on our hearts and souls that I, my family, and this city are eternally grateful. Father, and to your family. God bless you and your family is my prayer, my sincere desire.
Member Stoker?
I don't know how to follow that. I didn't prepare anything.
Just write it down.
No,
Didn't write it down.
but I kind of shared my heart at the last meeting when we had talked about it. But I don't think it's a coincidence that he passed on March 4th. And I think the best way that we can honor him is to really kind of grab hold of the passion that he had for people. I think all of us can sit here and say things that we know he did, but I really feel that's like a small fraction of what he did because he did so much behind the scenes that nobody even knows about. So it's my hope and my prayer that the best way I think we can honor him is to March 4th and preach the gospel to everyone we know.
Good. And I would just add to that, Member Jordan noted that he knew his heart. He knew who we were too. He knew our heart. We were hurting. He knew how we were hurting, like no one else I ever saw. He knew where to go when you were hurting. And let me just say that you guys, and you in particular, you're carrying on. Because I've seen you do the same thing. He is very, very proud of you. And he will remain that way. Thank you so much. Let's do a little picture here.
Thank you.
That was so good, meeting it.
Meeting adjourned. Come on, let's do it.
Got a little business to take care of.
Okay, city manager.
Yeah, item 5B is Arbor Day Proclamation 2021. Each year, the city celebrates Arbor Day as the last Friday in April with the mayor signing an Arbor Day proclamation. Celebration of Arbor Day supports the city's continued recognition as a Tree City USA.
Good job.
The official proclamation reads from the city of Titusville, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was the first observed with planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce erosion of our land by wind and water and reduce cooling costs, moderate temperatures, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas a tree in a city increases property values, enhances economic vitality of business areas, and beautifies our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Daniel E. Diesel, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Titusville, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day. Signed, Daniel E. Diesel, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Anybody want to comment on that? We'll move on to the next one. Thank you.
On to item 6A is the North Brevard Commission on Park and Recreation Semi-Annual Report is written, included in the agenda packet. No actions required.
Thank you, sir.
On to item 6B. The 9th grade student representing Astronaut High School has forfeited membership on the Student Advisory Council and has provided the city code as provided by City Code Section 2-53. This item is provided for informational purposes only and no action is required. On to item 6C. The Titusville Commission regular member Jim Yantz annually requests leave of absence from June, July, and August regular TEC meetings. Member Yant is a professor whose course schedule conflicts with regular TEC scheduled meetings during these 3 months. Staff recommends you approve TEC member Jim Yantz's leave of absence from June 2021 through August 2021.
Council, any questions? Cards? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Let her
Move to
approve.
approve. Boy, you're fast.
Hurry.
Move to approve TEC member Jim Yant's leave of absence from June 2021 to August 2021.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Member Jordan? Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
On to item 6D, accept the resignation of regular member Cynthia Williams of the North Brevard Library District Board with an unexpired term to expire on September 30th, 2022. Her resignation was effective on 16 March 2021.
Any comments or questions from the council? Any cards? Motion.
Move to accept the resignation of regular member Cynthia Williams of the North Brevard Library District Board.
Second.
Member Stokel has a second. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We move to petitions and requests from the public. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Joe Hill, 4490 Browning Avenue here in Titusville. And I have I don't know if it's a petition or request, but last year I had a couple opportunities where I needed to walk south Hopkins up behind the high school, go up to a garage, get some work done on my car, left it up there, did some walking back and forth. And I was really appalled at the condition of the sidewalk. It's narrow, it's broken in spots. Of course, we did the city streets project on Hopkins, which stopped right there at Titus Landing. Well, from Titus Landing north, it's terrible. And that's all the kids go to school that way. You got bicycles trying to maneuver through there, and bicycles have to share the road there because the road's not wide enough. It's dangerous, very dangerous. Bikes will get on there and you'll have some, excuse my language, bonehead that wants to come the wrong direction on the bike. And if there's nowhere to get out of the way, you have to come to a complete stop and stop all the traffic. It's dangerous. I walked up there 2 times. Bicycle come up behind me, didn't know it. Scooted by me, missed me by about 1 inch. The second time, I about jumped out of my shoes. It scared me so much. But it's dangerous, and if there's any way the city could look at budgeting to put in some better sidewalks, put in a place for the bikes to ride, it's more safer than that, I would appreciate it. I think it's long overdue.
Let me ask you a question just so I can understand. This is where?
North, South Hopkins at Titus Landing, north,
Okay.
all the way up.
So you're saying all the way, it's not just by
Well,
Titusville
you
High
get to
School?
Sycamore, you don't even have a sidewalk. You got grass.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
okay.
no sidewalk even there. It's dangerous. And if I kept thinking about some poor person in a wheelchair trying to maneuver their way up to there. It's going to be very difficult. And I just think the city can do better. And I just heard about just getting some funds. I don't know what those could be used for, but if you could do anything to improve the safety on that road, I think it would be money in the bank.
Okay, I appreciate it. I go by there all the time, but it doesn't mean I pay attention to what's going on with the sidewalk, so I think I will go
challenge each
see.
of you to go down
Yeah.
to Titus Landing and walk north to downtown. Walk back up here to the courthouse.
Okey doke.
Do it some morning when it's nice and cool, and you'll see what I'm talking about. When the kids are trying to make their way in the bicycle.
I'm not doing it when it's hot. Okay, yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mayor,
Yes.
could we possibly get somebody to go by there and just sort of do a look-see on it? I've
And I'm
noticed
sure city manager has that right now. I personally am going to go by there. I go by there just about every day, being that it's the Titusville High School area, and I can't tell you,
Sure.
I'm real familiar with the sidewalk. I haven't heard that, so I want to see that.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that, Kevin or somebody like that, but I'm just saying that for my own personal benefit, that's what I do. Go take a look. Petitions and requests. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Janice Pound. I live at 2608 Hemlock Court, Titusville.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's a privilege to share with you tonight. What I want to talk to you about is the opportunity to invite all those here and anyone watching on the television to join in the National Day of Prayer observance on Thursday, May the 6th at 6:30 at Indian River City United Methodist Church. The National Day of Prayer Task Force has selected the theme for 2021, Lord, pour out your love, life, and liberty. Love that sets us in motion. Life that as a gift from God is valued and treasured. Liberty that breaks every chain and shackle. Across our nation, each community in America can take this opportunity to gather from all sectors and share in a common experience of prayer for our nation. The National Day of Prayer is in its 7th decade, having been started by President Truman in 1952. But prayer for our nation is not new to our land. Even the pilgrims, as they arrived on a battered shore, took a knee, prayed, and thanked God for the provisions of getting there and asked for his blessings. In 1918, the year of the last global pandemic, by the way, and the year the U.S. went into World War I, Irving Berlin penned a solemn prayer. one that we have all sung, but maybe didn't realize it was a prayer. God, bless America with guidance, presence, and his light. So on the first Thursday of every May, it has been decreed that we will gather by the millions and join in lifting up in praise, thanksgiving, and our concerns for our nation. The National Task Force has identified several focus areas that are priorities: education, government, military, media and entertainment, family, workplace, and church. We invite you to join us on May the 6th at Indian River City to gather, and both outside and inside. We have sanctuary service as well as a very spacious courtyard where the program will be televised.
Are you about done? That's your 3 minutes, so I need to see. Are you about there?
Almost. Others may,
Whoa. How much time do you need? 30 seconds?
about 30 seconds.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
30 seconds, please.
Others may choose to join us on YouTube at ircumc.com and share in praying for our nation. That's 6:30, May the 6th, open to all of our diverse communities here in Titusville and the surrounding areas. Share in lifting up our nation for life, love, and liberty to pervade all our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions on the National Day of Prayer? I think that what she's getting at, and they've talked to me because that's my church, University United Methodist Church, and you guys are invited. That's what they're trying to get at. They're trying to get, if you didn't catch
We want the broad
that,
community to come.
they're trying to
yes.
get, I can tell you that Pastor Davis from AME is already accepted, and they're trying to get a very diverse group and, and some government leaders. I was part of it last year. But,
And you're going to be part of it this year.
I was going to say I'd bow out for all this great talent up here. But anyway, okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate it. Next up. There he is.
Same guy,
See, I
stay in
told you.
Johnston, 860.7 Avenue, live the same place. See you again. Here's the poster you've seen before. That's one of the posters that when I was dragged out of the council chambers from behind by 3 police officers. This is one, I think this is probably the main one. And so it says here, it says, by golly, it says fraud by city manager and mayor. And by golly, it has one on here. It says ORB 8506, page 1374. That's about 3 pages that has a word-by-word transcription of this fraud. And city manager's right there. City manager, that's the city manager right there. And that's the mayor right there. And it's fraud. And by golly, if you want to, just read that. And or you look at it on video. It's on YouTube. So I sent you today an email about 4 pages long, and I'll just read it again. It says I've repeatedly offered for the past 17 months now $100 to anybody, any citizen, anybody can get a city manager or a council member to talk with me and them, just to meet with $100. And guess what? No council member will come forward. None of them will come because, and I've been told this long, because they're scared. They're scared because it's an admission of guilt. By God, they'll blow it up. And not only that, he's a city manager because obviously it looks like to me he'll just be terminated if the truth comes out. You don't want the truth. So what you did on March the 12th, 2020, that's a little bit over a year ago. What you do is that I'm coming forward carrying 3 posters, walking toward minding my own business, walking to the podium, and I get grabbed from behind by 3 police officers. Not blaming the police, because they're doing just what they're told, what the city manager tells them to do. Something like that. So they take me out there, grab me, 3 shots. Don't even say, why they're grabbing me. Get out there in a hallway, 5 police officers now. 5 police officers just harassing me. And I say, what's going on, man? Why is it being happening? So they garbled something, but it didn't make any sense. So now I'm asking tonight, I'm saying, hey, I've asked the question before, is why did it happen? Why was I removed? Because I said, why? I said, arrest me, arrest me. That's what I shouted to them. Arrest me, arrest me. I'm sure it's on their videos. This is the city of Titusville. What are you going to do next time? Are you going to shoot me? See, I don't get a reason. I don't get a reason why it happened. So I guess so I don't know what I've done, but I guess the next time you'll be obligated to shoot me. Please answer the question. Why?
I see no response.
Absolutely. No response. It fits.
Anybody
Why
else?
you go to church?
Good evening. My name is Nathan Slusher. I live at 860 Allendale Street in Titusville, and I'm here to issue a request for motion acceptance for public hearing and vote on alteration of Chapter 4, Section 4 of Titusville Code of Ordinances. Florida Statute 166.041 gives the ability for motion for changes to the council, and the ability to present motions is always rights for citizens. Citizen motions must be in writing, presented, and accepted by a council member to move forward for public hearing and vote at the next meeting. However, we always must abide by all public hearing laws in Statute 166.041. On March 21st, Brevard County Commissioners voted to alter the alcohol sales laws in the county, thus prompting me to look at our own sales laws in our city. Chapter 4, Section 4 is the law of when alcohol may be sold. Our current law was established in 1963, and it prohibits the sale of alcohol after 11 p.m. at night, and not before 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday, and not before 1 p.m. on Sundays. We currently have 6 bars and 15 vendors that hold hours of operations past that legal limit. The law was revised in 2009 to allow a permit to extend those hours from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. The permit's free, and we have 24 out at the current moment, with 5 pending that are running behind. This law and permit have created a lose-lose situation for the city of Titusville. The fishermen who load up at 5 a.m. with beer and ice, like me, can't purchase beer here in town. Chapter 4, Section 4 also requires the city manager himself to personally inspect every application every year. This creates a workload for a permit that produces no revenue for the city of Titusville. Managing these permits costs money, and the purpose of the law is completely unclear. So the city loses time and money, the vendors lose the right to sell a normal product on their own property, thus stopping a free market, and the citizens who have to purchase during the early hours have to take their business outside of the city, thus removing capital from our own local economy. Chapter 4, Section 4 references Florida Statute 562.14, subsection 3. The law gives the city council the liberty and the responsibility to decide and document alcohol time restrictions, if any, they deem fit for Titusville. With that noted, I hereby present motion LP1-2021 to say the following. Whereas Brevard County Commission has voted to make alcohol sales legal 24/7, and whereas Chapter 4, Section 4 has been reviewed and chose to present a situation that costs the city time and money with no benefit, and whereas this section infringes on the rights of private property owners to sell a normal product to its customers, I hereby motion to strike Chapter 4, Section 4 and rewrite it to say, alcohol shall be permitted to be sold at any time without restriction during the jurisdiction of the city of Titusville. Does any council member accept motion?
Well, that's not how it works, but with all those numbers, I'm going to toss it to city attorney. I mean, would you like to reply to that? I mean, because clearly that's not something the council is going to act on tonight.
If council is interested in changing the code as requested, of course, that's an ordinance change, which has to be advertised. You have to have first reading, second reading. Council is interested in moving in that direction. They could provide advisability, which I take the motion to be as he's asking you to move forward with that. Council, if their desire, could give advisability to move in that direction, which would require an ordinance change, as I stated.
Actually, I think he was making a motion and looking for a second. But that being said,
He had exactly what I was
that's why I tossed it his way.
Yeah.
Council, comment? Vice Mayor?
So what are our limits right now?
11 p.m.
11 p.m.
And you can buy a free permit to go till 2 a.m., but it doesn't help the fishermen. Because
Okay.
you can't buy before 7 a.m. So those who load up at 5 to go to the ocean, we can't buy beer here.
Okay. I don't have a problem re-looking at it and seeing what maybe you want to.
If council would like, we can provide you the agenda item when that was changed.
When was that changed?
09.
Oh, 09. And when can you buy beer?
I don't know the hours of buying beer in the morning.
Come on.
Or, I know,
I didn't hear the question, I'm
I
sorry.
talked to,
I'm not going to admit
I
that.
don't,
No.
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I just, yeah.
Now, we've
If
had
you'd
the-
asked me 20 years ago, I might have known.
Right,
the
council's
answer.
had those discussions when we end up relaxing some of the rules, I think on Sundays when people want their mimosas. We've had those subjects come to council.
Yeah.
Previously, what is being referenced is the time moving to 11 and getting the permit to 2. I think the impetus of that at the time was some of the nuisance complaints you had at some of the bars late at night, and noise complaints.
Right.
And so you get the permit, but if there's violations of code during those hours, then you have the ability to take action on that permit if you have a nuisance business.
Oh,
It's part
that's
of
the-
it. So you have a permit, do it, which doesn't cost anything. However, if you do have violations of noise and other violations on your property, it gives council the opportunity to bring that owner in and address those issues and try and resolve them. I think that was the impetus of it. I'd be glad to provide each council member, maybe the council package from when that was adopted to give you a better idea what that is and why.
I would appreciate it because I wasn't here then. I remember some of the discussion because some of the restaurants wanted to have brunch on Sundays. But I would like to see.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I think he brings up some good points that certainly I haven't thought about. Talking about no beer after 11 o'clock, except for council nights. I'm in bed an hour and a half already. So those days are gone. So I'm really not familiar with that. So, and then you bring up a good point of why it's a problem for people like you. But I'd also like to hear, as you talked about maybe some history on some of the concerns, why was it changed? What were the problems? Where was there disturbances? I don't know, but I think it's a point well brought up, to hear a little bit more about that. Member Stokel.
So if we were to extend it, would that then say that the bars would be able to extend their hours because of or is that, how does that
It wasn't
work?
hours of operation for the bar. It was hours that you sell the alcohol, was my understanding. And
So last call
No,
would
this
be
was-
sooner,
this is how
essentially.
many years ago. So I'm going purely off memory from
Okay.
2009. However, my recollection was it was applicable to establishments that sell for on-site consumption. So I'd be glad to provide that. to
Yeah,
council.
Can I say something? In response to what you just asked?
Sure.
I've noticed both of you have mentioned bars. There's only 6 that have the permit right now. The biggest issue is gas stations. Cumberland Farms can't sell.
So you're saying like these 24-hour gas
Correct, they're
stations,
not
you're
allowed
going
to.
to go try to buy at 6 a.m. They
Correct.
say, no, we cannot because
Yes.
of our rule right
Even
now.
with the permit, they still can't.
Okay, that was going to be my
Yes.
next question for you. Is
So
where are
as
you
we're
trying-
building these
Okay.
gas stations and growing Titusville,
Okay,
now we can't sell to fishermen who load up and we load up at 5 a.m. to hit the ocean.
okay.
So we can't, even if we get the permit or we extend Sunday till 11 a.m., it doesn't help us buy beer when we load the boat up.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
BYOB. No.
And that was part of, and I think that reasoning is why Brevard County voted to go 24/7, was because
And I knew they
we're
were
a fishing
discussing
community.
this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes
Good
sense.
points.
Thank you for bringing it.
I did not know that. Member Robinson.
Yes, being retired Coast Guard, we don't want you drunk out on the ocean anyway.
There you go. There's another good point.
I wanted to state.
Drunk driving, no
that
drunk
up
driving
front.
on the ocean.
Okay, and I have concerns that that's ice. You can go and buy it before 11 o'clock and put it on ice and put it on your boat. So I'm interested in all that other stuff, but that. But at the same time, seeing, being an eyewitness to what can happen out there while you are doing that and have boarded a lot of, doing law enforcement, a lot of fishermen boat while they had been consuming. But I'm willing to listen, but I just want to say that you can ice it down before 11 o'clock, and then you won't have to get up before 6 to buy it.
I was just
Bang.
Bang is right.
Member Jordan.
Yeah, I don't drink. So, the challenge I have is we got to be real careful in my mind. Just because I don't do something doesn't mean that I should stop someone else from doing anything. But Councilmember Robinson brings a good point. I mean, gosh, if you want the beer out there, I mean, you buy it before 11 o'clock and put it on ice. I don't know if we need an ordinance change. I hear what you're saying, and I'm willing to look at the thing, but to me, if you don't have this ordinance, it's not going to stop you from buying before 11 o'clock, correct, and putting it on ice. I think what the challenge is when you go and gas up your boat, you normally go inside and you want to get what you want then. It's already cold, right? So you just want to put it in that's why I'm saying, I don't do that, but that doesn't mean that it's right or wrong in my mind. So I'm willing to look at it, but I just don't know if we have a problem that really needs to be solved, but I'm willing to look at it.
Yeah, I think that's what's good about petitions and requests and somebody who's looked it over. I wasn't real familiar with that. I must be honest with you, when you said you go to Cumberland Farms at a certain time, you can't buy beer. I didn't know that.
I think most people think it's about bars. It's always about bars, and that's not the ordinance at all. It's about vendors. It specifically points at the vendors that sell closed alcohol. Winn-Dixie, Publix, Walmart, they all have to carry the permit so that on New Year's Eve, they're allowed to sell, because otherwise it would be illegal for Walmart to sell beer on New Year's Eve. That's our law.
We didn't know.
All right, any other comments up here?
Nope.
I see none. Thank you. As always, well done. Thank you. Yes, sir. Anybody, more petitions?
came
Yes, sir.
Now he can
Petitions
say-
and requests, take two.
I'm back. It's a
Thank
little
you
bit
so
tall
much
for
for
me,
being
so
here.
I have to move it down a little bit again. My name's Tuan Lee. I'm 701 Tropic. I just recently moved there. Anyway, now I just want to say that I had done my part as a citizen, as the business entrepreneur, and the next part is all of you. What I have done in the past few months, right here in Titusville, that I don't think anybody in our town has done, even anybody in our country has done. I recruit 85 students. I cannot say student anymore because more than half is graduate from college. They don't have a job. Some of them is PhD, working on PhD. They don't have a job. Some of them is working on their master. They don't have a job. So I go out and recruit a whole bunch of them and give them opportunity to work with us. And it's funded just me personally. And then I have set a policy to everyone that if your project is become mature, it's ready, we will turn that into a business and they will be a part of that business. I try to help this kid to have an opportunity to work, to get experience, to be out there, to be ready for the community. 85 students is not just only UCF or UF, it's also Daytona State College, Brevard, Eastern State College, FIT, UCLA. I have a PhD student from UCLA too, Texas, and across the country. So I'm looking for the opportunity with the city to have some kind of fund or budgets, or even make some change on the way that other big company out there to propose into the city, how they win the contract. This will help us to bring more young engineer into the environment. Because when the city have some kind of bidding, they look into a big company like AECOM, Airdam, Lockheed, all this company, but they forget there's a company in town, Pacifically Engineer. We have talented in town. We are here. We know what we're doing. We developed 20 different projects within 9 months, 10 months, since June until now. So that is something really, really challenge for us to handle over the 10th month from my own pocket. And this is something that the city, can I have a few more minutes?
Can you wrap it up in a minute?
Yes.
1 minute, please.
So I'm looking forward the city to give us a more opportunity with the budgets and fund available to have us to give this kid an opportunity to move forward, to have a better opportunity and change the way of how the big company coming into our town and propose for a business proposal. And we can have, if I can work with all of you to make sure when a big company, it's not only for engineer, it's some other small business out there too. They're looking for opportunity to work. So we can change the way that how big company come into our town to get the business with us. They have to bring some small business with them, but they can play game. Because it's happened to me that they can remove the small business for convenience. They load a bid, they win the contract, and they remove the small business for convenience. I know how to stop that. I know how to make them not hurt by proposal, and I know how to keep a small business continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and say, and I think there's at least one light here. You have a vision, just like that whole corner did over there, but you are in a special category of the high-tech world of engineering, the things you bring in, and the focus you have to use that in Titusville. I like the way you say that. You know, they're looking for this company, that company. Well, we got it right here. And that has an awful lot to do with you. Member George.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you, to tell you the truth, since I own a small business myself, and I do understand the game that is played by the big businesses. What I like actually staff to look at is we do have a lot of RFQs out there, and we tend to say you got to have this amount of experience or that amount of experience. I know there's going to be some projects that don't require a lot of experience. Of course, there are certifications and all that good stuff. But to allow small businesses to be able to bid on those things, even without a big business, would be great. But just to have something, even a set-aside. The government have set-asides all the time for small disadvantaged business, women-owned business, VA, and all that stuff. But we can start something in Titusville that would allow, because we do want small businesses to grow and prosper, but they got to have opportunities to do that, and sometimes we just overlook them. So if staff can look at, especially in procurement, look at some of the requirements that we have and maybe modify them, as long as it's not a liability problem, you know, as far as the city is concerned, modify them to give those less experienced some opportunities so they can grow in the experience. I think it would be good for everybody. Nobody says anything. So do I have to ask for a, what's it called? Advisement to have staff to look into how we can modify some of our requirements to help small businesses get those opportunities that they need. Is that okay? So that's my motion.
Wanting somebody to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we could turn around and we give points to people who are in the community. And then there's a different percentage that I don't remember how you do it. You were paid.
We do that now.
We have a local preference.
So, but we do it for,
Well, what they have now is the fact that if you are in City of Titusville, Brevard County, there is you get some points for that. What I'm looking for is more than that. I'm looking for it to be focused on small businesses, and specifically in Titusville, that we can set aside certain projects that they can handle, and we help them with it and make sure they can handle those things without even getting big businesses involved in it. But also, if there is requirements and you need a big business experience, that they don't take away once they get the contract, because it does happen. They low bid it, and then they find a way to get rid of the small business. They were awarded it with the small business, but once they start, they say, well, we can't use you anymore. We can do this business, this inside our facility, so we don't need you anymore. And that's what he wants to stop.
Correct.
So I think if you do advisability, if you can understand what I'm saying, I think we can go
I think we
forward.
do. You understand, of course, that the idea behind competitive bidding and procurement laws is to get the best deal for the city and its citizens.
I understand that, but you also can have your requirements that is set aside for specific small businesses, large businesses, medium-sized businesses, and it goes along with the federal requirements and state requirements. I do know that.
Right, I think you look at, based on procurement, what it is you need and what it
Right.
is you're trying to acquire for the city,
Right.
depending on the item you're going to purchase.
Right. I can give you a good example. When I wasn't on council, I bid on a big pump for the water plant. I got the thing, okay? But that wasn't set aside for just a small business. Of course, they wanted the lowest bid for sure. So I'm saying we can do the same thing by saying this is only going to be bid out to small businesses. And you still get 3 or 4 bids, but it'll put the small business on an even playing field instead of having to bid against someone who can get, products for a whole lot less.
In addition, small business, that doesn't mean they don't have a capability. I used to work for Emerson Electric, and I designed a water and wastewater system, and I developed a technology for Emerson. They've been using it for 12 years already. And that doesn't mean, but the thing is, when we go in as a small business, it's always get kicked back out and then looking forward for a big company to win the contract. So if I'm the OEM to work for a big company and I start my independent business, it's not that I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, but the city and the government doesn't look that way. They just look for the brand name. So put it this way. If any of you, your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, your family, if you go out and say, hey, I know how to do this, somebody come and say, no, you don't know what you're doing. What do you think of that? So if I have a capability to develop the technology and develop the technology for a big company, why can't we work on the contract with the city or government? And that is what I get back. No one have done this, and we done this. 1 month, we turn in 20 proposals. Ask yourself, as a business owner, how long it take for one proposal? But we turn in 20 proposals 1 month. Next month, by the end of May, we going to turn in 20 more proposals. But city, federal, they don't look at that way. They're just looking for a big company to win the contract, to provide the service.
All right, let's hold right there, because I think you could probably do this for a lot longer.
Oh, yes, he can.
But that being said, like I said, I'll go back to the fact that I think you're outstanding. We're fortunate to have you here, and I hope you stay motivated and keep moving. And I know that we've got the drift of where we're heading with this. So thank you so much. Anybody else? All right, that ends petitions and requests. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Any council members want to pull any of items A through S? Clerk, are there cards on any of the items A through S?
Yes, sir. We have one individual that has requested to speak on 13 items, and then we have 2 additional citizens that have requested to speak on item H.
Okay, Mayor and Council, because of the length of consent, since we had a skip week, if I could read for the record the titles of consent agenda items A through S only.
I appreciate that.
Consent agenda item 8A, approve the amendment to work order for the Indian River Forced Main design. Consent agenda item 8B, approve the housing replacement program loan assumption agreement for 819 Dummett Avenue. Consent agenda item 8C, approve housing rehabilitation program loan assumption agreement for 2300 Barna Avenue. Consent agenda item 8D, approve the work order for the Indian River Lagoon Sanitary Sewer Force Main Master Planning. Consent agenda item 8E, approve the purchase order of 2 pump replacements for the Osprey Water Reclamation Facility. Consent agenda item 8F, approve the award of work order for engineering services for the Cheney Highway Water Main Replacement Project. Consent agenda item 8G, approve the award of code enforcement nuisance mowing and lot clearing contract. Consent agenda item 8H, approve the budget amendment for landscaping mitigation fund transfer for Sandpoint Park plantings. Consent agenda item 8I, Approve the award for FY21 Community Block Grant Street Paving Improvement Contract Award. Consent agenda item 8J, approve the purchase of vehicles for public works. Consent agenda item 8K, approve the budget amendment for solid waste budget amendment recycling processing fees. Consent agenda item 8A, authorize the mayor to execute Amendment 1 to the Brevard County Save our Indian River Lagoon Grant Extension for the Dray Field Floating Islands. Consent agenda item 8M, approve the cost-sharing funding interlocal agreement for the St. John's No. 2 baffle box. Consent agenda item 8N, approve the cost-sharing funding interlocal agreement for the Marina Pond Floating Islands. Consent agenda item 8O, approve the purchase of a slope mower. Consent agenda item 8P, approve the award for the Morning Dove Water Treatment Plant Standby Generator Fuel Line Replacement. Consent agenda item 8Q, approve advisability for small business assistance for business tax receipt payments. Consent agenda item 8R, approve the change order number 1 for engineering services for the design of traffic signal improvements. And consent agenda item 8H, or correction, 8S, approve resolution number 12, 2021, clarifying the processes for settlement and collection of municipal code liens under resolution 1-2012. And Mayor, aside from item H, you have cards on 13 items.
Okay, and the two people wanted 8, right? 1 second. Member Dory, okay, you're not there. I'm in real trouble now. I have Member Aker up there. See her. Okay, can we call the cards for the H?
For the H?
Yeah, just individually first.
K. St. Ong.
Yes, I'm Kay St. Ange, and I live on Maryland Avenue in Titusville. Please approve the landscape mitigation fund transfer in the amount of $25,000 for tree plantings around the East Pond at Sandpoint Park. It is my understanding this project will also include the planting of mangroves at approved locations along the park's lagoon shoreline to be coordinated by Parks and Recreation and undertaken by Keep Brevard Beautiful volunteers and Marine Resource Council. Citizens have asked for these tree and mangrove plantings to remediate for the recent sewage spill. Parks and Recreation have approved the planting of 10 cedar trees and 18 palms along the East Pond. These trees will reduce stormwater runoff and so will help mitigate for the recent sewage spill. As well, they will beautify the park, reduce temperatures, and provide bird habitat. The mangroves will absorb nutrients from the lagoon, provide habitat for aquatic creatures and birds, stabilize shoreline, and beautify the park. The Landscape Trust Fund is to be utilized to beautify public properties by landscaping. Revenue accrued in this fund is a result of tree mitigation efforts, and so it is appropriate to plant trees and mangroves in the park with these funds. An announcement about these plantings might be part of the Arbor Day celebration. I appreciate the efforts of the mayor, Jeff Davis, and Tex Lodholtz in working together to implement this project. Thanks also for Laura Lee Thompson and Maureen Roop, who also worked with this. Thank you very much.
Hold up 1 second. Kind of like we talked to Parks and Rec a little bit, I want to thank you for, first of all, sometimes it's not what people say, and just in my book, it's how they say it. And I've always felt like sometimes you're kind of not real happy about things, but you say it in a way that means something to me. And this was another one of those. And I think we're moving forward because you started that. And I got to hear it, and I don't want to leave city manager out because I can tell you that Jeff Davis, Tex, and myself met with city manager. He's obviously very on board, and he's the guy that can lead us to how we can fund our part. I'm excited we're moving forward with this. When I told you this before, I kind of went out there with this vision of Dray Field, and that's our Dray Park, I guess I call it now. And that's not exactly where we're going, but it looks like we're going to make a real impact. And
Yes.
working with you has been a pleasure. And city manager, thank you so much for when we sat with you. And because really, and I've always said this, and I said this in our meeting, there's doors we have to go through. And if those doors get shut, and a lot of people think I have a lot more power than I do. And so city manager is right there helping us open doors because we think this is an important project. And thank you again so much. Appreciate you.
And thank you to the city manager. Thank you.
Member Jordan, did you have anything?
Yeah, where are you going? I just want to reemphasize what the mayor says. I certainly appreciate, your efforts, and he's exactly right. It's not what you say sometimes, but how you say it. And I know your heart is in this for sure, and you're very sincere about it. And I appreciate meeting with you and listening to what you have to say. And I think you understand as a mature person, sometimes you don't get everything that you want.
Yes.
But, a squeaky wheel certainly gets the oil. But, the squeaky sound has to sound good to the person who has the oil. And you have done your duty. And because of that, this is happening. So we appreciate what you're doing. For sure.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Joe Hill.
Joe Hill, 4490 Browning. I'm in favor of any landscaping we can do. I would just recommend that if we're going to spend money to buy plants, we buy Florida native plants.
Right.
That's the only thing I wanted to. Sounds like it's pretty well covered.
Well, we've certainly had some meetings and individual meetings, and that's part of the deal, what you just said. So I appreciate that. Next card.
We also have Stan Johnston, which he has signed up for 13 items.
13
but one of them
items.
is item H.
Oh, we have one more item, H?
No. He also signed up for item H. but
Okay,
that's his
okay.
third.
Well, he'll come up and speak about them all. Give me back.
Time to take a break because I'm talking, so
We're
Mr.
going.
Jordan is leaving. Yeah. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Jordan.
Ms. Wells.
Okay, so 13 times 3 is about 39 minutes. And I don't know if Mr. Jordan can spend that much time in the bathroom or not. But so I'm only sitting down for about 10 minutes now. So I sent you, as I told you before, I sent you an email. It's about 4 pages long. And just read you a little bit, just to the title. The title's a little bit too long. But here's what the title is. And this has to do with these, every agenda item here. It says, here's what I'm reading to you. It says, written comments for the council meetings of April the 13th. And it says, written comments pertain to all agenda items because these written comments pertain to the, I'd like to hear this, dishonesty. Mr. Jordan left. I know he's going to leave there. And I thought Sarah was going to leave too. She often leaves there. Violation of laws, violation of engineering principles, etc., by city, including Sean Stauffer. Sean Stauffer's here. He's right. Director of Water Resources, city manager. That's city manager right there. City manager, city attorney, and all council members except for, who's that? Pastor Robinson. That's you, buddy. You're excluded. Yes, sir. And it says that, and especially my demand, and I'm not saying request, it's demand for our honorable mayor, Coach Dan Diesel. It says, and city manager, that's Mr. Larice, to either tell the truth or to resign. That's the resign. And it says causes include, and then I've got causes. It says, oh my goodness, the causes, there must be 30 different causes in there about regarding dishonesty. And so these 13 items have to do with this. I brought them out. Not all of them have to do with that particular item because I've approved some of them and I've disapproved and I've put neither on some of them also. So Mrs. Wells has my cards on this. So let's start with some of them here.
Give me a letter when you go so I can follow along.
Give you a what?
Give me a letter where you're going to be
ready?
talking from. There's a lot of them.
8A, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, 8H, and some other ones. There's 8M,
At A?
M, 8N, 8P, Those are, okay, I see, below 8H, 8I, 8K, 8L. So, that's a good start right there. So, for example, 8A, it's an item of $235,000. $235,000. And my goodness, you know, the thing is in here, I'm saying, spend a little money. In fact is, according to this thing right here, is that the city claims that they spent $70,000. There's $70,000 for this report that says that Stan Johnson is a worthless, incompetent engineer. Paid $70,000 for a report that the records manager can't find. Purchasing and contracting can't even find a contract to do the work. And you guys are claiming that you paid $70,000. Finance can't find it either. But the thing is, our city manager right over there, that guy right there, over here, city manager, he still claims after 2 years that they've got it somewhere, this report. And all the council members are promoting and supporting this
Stop
thing.
the clock, please. You know where I'm going. You told me you're going to talk
Okay,
about
I know
A,
where
and
I'm
we're
going.
about
Okay,
A.
maybe you should,
So, go
maybe
to
you
A
should
or go to
recuse
another.
yourself. Maybe you should
Talk on
disqualify
topic.
yourself.
Talk on topic. That's all I've ever asked you to do.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. The
I
thing
haven't
is,
heard that.
okay, now I want you to understand, Mr. Diesel, is that I'm demanding
Let me
you
tell
to
you
tell
right
the
now,
truth.
this isn't a
Tell the-
debate. You're going to be on topic, or you're
need
going
to
to be done. Go.
No,
Start the
you're
clock.
maybe you're gonna be undone
Start the
because
clock.
Okay, maybe I'll tell you what, because maybe you're gonna be undone because you're gonna need to disqualify yourself because you're prejudiced against me. You're the one. You're one of these guys that's promoting.
Are you gonna be
supporting
on
this
topic?
fraud. I'm putting you on the nose right now. I'm asking you
That's
to
your
disqualify
warning.
yourself
That's your
right
warning.
now. Right now,
That's
I
your
want you to
second
disqualify
warning.
yourself. Disqualify
That's your
yourself.
second
You have
warning.
No, I'm warning you.
You get on topic, or you're going to sit down.
Well, I'll tell you what you need to do is you either
He's not on
step
topic. I
down,
need him to sit down.
you disqualify yourself because you are so prejudiced.
You four
You're
times to be on
prejudiced.
topic.
I'm
refuse to be on topic.
We're discussing it right now.
You refuse
no,
to
sir.
be on topic.
He needs to.
You need to sit down.
He needs to recuse himself.
Hey, calm down.
He needs to
Sit
disqualify.
down or you're leaving, man.
No.
That's the way it's going. You gotta
go.
sit down or
That's
you're
not
leaving.
right. I'm not going to sit down.
Well, then you're out of here.
No, okay. Then what are you going to do? You have to take me out.
I'm gonna escort you out.
Okay, then you take me out.
All right.
All right, because
Let's go.
you're not being
Because
honest.
you won't be on topic.
No, you're not. I'm on top.
Feel free to watch the tape, because you will. You are not on topic. I asked you 4 times to be on topic.
Mayor, I think we're ready for a vote.
What I normally do is any other comments from the council? Sure, there's plenty. Motion?
Move to approve, our consent agenda A through, I think it's S.
Yes. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Nelson.
Yes.
Member Stokes.
Yes.
Member Robinson.
Yes.
Member Jordan.
Yes.
Mayor Diesel.
Yes. City Manager.
On to item 9A is rezoning number ordinance 8-2021, and the city attorney will read the ordinance.
This item is quasi-judicial, so I'd like to read those proceedings first. During the public hearing portion of the meeting, anyone wishing to speak on a quasi-judicial item must first sign a public hearing agenda card, sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table at the entrance of the chamber. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the city council to consider, they must be submitted into evidence, will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the city clerk. City clerk, have all persons wishing to speak before the city council sign an oath card swearing to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. For staff and applicant, have all witnesses that intend to speak sign an oath card swearing to tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. If there is anyone present who has not signed an oath card that wishes to speak on this quasi-judicial item, please submit a card at this time. City Clerk, have all agenda items been properly advertised? In the event that a council member has received an ex parte communication, either verbal or written, outside of the hearing, the council member shall disclose the identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place, and the subject of the communication, including all opinions or facts discussed. Any written communication must be disclosed and made a part of the record. Also, in the event that a member has conducted an investigation or site visit, or received any expert opinions regarding the quasi-judicial item, said visit or opinion shall be disclosed. Written ex parte communications exist. Please verify if you're the applicant that you received them, and the opportunity to review when you're ready to proceed.
Is there an applicant to come forward with this? No? Okay, council, any comments? Unless these are old, or are these new?
No.
I'm sorry.
Mayor, I will also need to read.
I'm sorry.
I'll need to read the order.
Okay, does Member Robinson? No? Okay, go ahead. No worries.
This is ordinance number 8, 2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending ordinance number 5, 1993, by amending the zoning map made a part of said ordinance by reference, by replacing the present community commercial CC zoning district with the regional commercial RC zoning district for a portion of property approximately 0.997 acres in size, having parcel ID number 22 35 29 AV 49, located on the south side of Columbia Boulevard and on the west side of Wendover Trail, providing for an effective date.
On March 17th, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this request and recommended approval with the condition that the applicant hold a community engagement meeting before the City Council meeting on April 13th, 2021. Vote was 7 yes, 0 no. The applicant conducted the required meeting on March 29th, 2021. The applicant, Schiff Construction and Development, on behalf of the owner, Home Depot USA Incorporated, is requesting to rezone a 1-acre site from community commercial CC zoning district to regional commercial RC and remove the site-specific conditions of the previous ordinance to allow parking lot on the property. The applicant seeks to remove the condition to allow the expansion of Home Depot parking lot. The applicant conducted the required community engagement meeting on March 29, 2021. According to the required sign-in sheet, which is attached in your packet, there were 0 attendees other than the applicant, Schiff Construction and Development. Ms. Busaka is available to answer any questions that you may have regarding this ordinance.
Council, any questions? Ms. Busaka, any comments?
I just wanted to say that on page 427 of your agenda item as part of the staff report, that there are 6 conditions which the applicant is requesting be removed. All of these conditions would be required as part of the city's current site plan process for, well, I shouldn't say that, I said it wrong. The, excuse me, all of the issues that are addressed in these conditions will be reviewed because these are basically duplicative of the code. So staff is recommending that these be removed and that the property be zoned to regional commercial, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the other regional commercial within the area.
Okay, very good. I see no questions. Any cards?
We had one card that's Brian Fleming.
Patiently waiting, obviously.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Brian Fleming. I live in 6689 South Fork Road, Titusville. I'm here as chair of the Libertarian Party of Brevard County and representing the citizens of Titusville. Home Depot requested permission to rezone an out parcel of land to construct a building on their own property. It is our understanding that this construction is not being financed by the city of Titusville, nor will it infringe on the property rights of the private property owners in the surrounding area. Given both statements, we wish the record to reflect that we support Home Depot's right to use their property as they wish with no government restrictions.
Short, sweet, to the point. I see no questions.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other cards? Council, any questions or concerns? And if not, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to the Home Depot request.
Member Robinson makes that motion and seconded by Member Jordan. Roll call vote.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
City Manager.
On to item 10A, which is ordinance number 9-2021. City Attorney will read the ordinance. First reading.
Ordinance number 9, 2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, revoking the economic development ad valorem tax exemption to New Space Center LLC, providing for an effective date.
This is the first reading of ordinance 9-2021. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled to be considered by council on April 27th, 2021 at 6:30.
Council question, Member Robinson, are you still up over there? Okay. Okay, no worries. Council, any questions, comments? Any cards? We move on.
On to item 10B, which is ordinance 10-2021, and the city attorney will read the first reading of this ordinance.
Ordinance number 10, 2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, allowing for an ad valorem tax abatement to Dark Storm Industries LLC, Project Freedom, specifying the items exempted, providing for an expiration date for the exemption, providing for an effective date.
This is the first reading of ordinance number 10-2021. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled to be considered by council on April 27th, 2021 at 6:30. Ms. Bisaka, Ms. Nicholas are here to answer any questions that you may have regarding this ordinance 10.
Ms. Busaka, any comments first?
No, sir. If you have any questions.
Member Robinson.
Yes, being that I'm new on the council, I just, in reading all of this, I needed to learn, that these requests continues on. Is there a time limit, other than I see that if they don't meet the requirements, I understand that we have the authority to not approve it. But is there any time limit? Can they continue to come and every time continue to come?
If you'd look on page 558 you'll see, actually, I'm sure it's repeated several times, there is an ABT status report of all of the different, and you can see the year at which they expire. So beyond that, they will not be coming forward. However, each year you have the opportunity to say they have not met their requirements and therefore that the council would not approve the ad valorem tax abatement for the subject year.
The council has approved it for 10 years, 8 years.
Yes, sir.
And so forth. Is that what you're speaking of?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right.
And then annually, we bring it back to you. That's what will be happening towards the end of your meeting with those. This is your annual renewal of several that are already out there.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Yes.
Member Jordan.
Thank you very much. I've been waiting on this, and so does EDC back there in the corner. That's the masked man back there. Want to point you all to page 436 that states on April 5th, 2021, the county's ad valorem tax abatement review committee, which I'm a member, convened for the purpose of discussing a recommendation to the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners after a positive discussion regarding Dark Storm's potential to assist in diversifying the economy, which is very important, as well as its role in fostering an emerging cluster of firearm manufacturers in North Brevard County. There was a unanimous vote to approve a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for a 1% exemption for a period of 10 years. I think we need to have a discussion because I believe that we should go with the 10 years also. The applicant asked for 10 years per the requirements that we have from the city. They qualified for the 7 years, but there are extenuating circumstances with this one. And that's what we discussed at the county ad valorem tax committee meeting. And part of it is that this is a competitive business and was very competitive for the state of Florida because there's Panhandle is actually going to give them a pad-ready site for them to do their manufacturing. We do not have a pad-ready site, so this manufacturer is going to have to put a lot of money into developing the site. We, of course, want him in the industrial area, and that's where he's going to be. And one of the things that we have a vision of is to make sure we're diversifying in Brevard County, diversifying in Titusville. And they will be bringing non-aerospace type business to Brevard County, and specifically to Titusville. So I've got Edgar here who can explain a little more about our process that we did. As it was stated before, we had 100% participation, and we got a unanimous vote from the committee that will be going to the county. And the county, of course, is going to be the ones that decide what they're going to do. But they usually go with our recommendation. And from what I understand, there is a majority who is in agreement with this. So, Edgar, if you can explain exactly what we did and where we are, I would.
First of all, I knew there had to be a reason you were sitting in that back corner for 8 hours.
With a mask.
With a mask. I was starting to worry about it. Anyway, we're glad you're here, and thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for allowing me to speak. Council members, my name is Edgar Campa Palafox. I'm Director of Business Development with the Economic Development Commission, or EDC for short. What Council Member Jordan mentioned is the Ad valorem Tax Abatement Council for the county met and discuss this project. And I will just give you a really quick highlight since, you have a long meeting ahead of you and you had a long meeting before. This company is proposing moving its firearm manufacturing operations and headquarters to Titusville. They're proposing 50 jobs in the Space Commerce Park, and they're proposing a new building for 25,000 square feet that it will be actually expandable to something close to 50,000 in the future. They're already allowing land and possibilities for expansion. But initially, again, 50 jobs, 25,000 square feet. The average wage for those jobs are $50,000, and the investment for the project is $3.2 million, including working on the greenfield, working on building new building, and bringing equipment for manufacturing those firearms. As Councilmember Jordan mentioned, we are in a really extremely competitive position with the Panhandle. They started with a national search, including different states. They narrowed to Florida, and the two sites that are remaining is one in the Panhandle and the Space Coast. One of the issues with this competitive issue is that they are offering a pad-ready site instead of a greenfield as we have here, which, as you know, a greenfield needs more work, more infrastructure, mitigate environmental concerns that the actual site has. But also, we don't have access to the same tools that the Panhandle communities have, mostly because they have money available from the British Petroleum Settlement, which allows them to actually use that money for attracting businesses. So the three main reasons why we are asking for an enhanced support for this project are three. Economic diversification of the economy. As we mentioned, that the companies bringing jobs outside aerospace, which are badly needed in our community, in the whole county, not only Titusville. So that's one of the very important reasons to offer an enhanced support. This company will actually build on a cluster that is already emerging, and not a lot of people know, which is firearms manufacturing. We already have companies in the county, Diamondback Firearms, Skeltec, Knight Armaments, that are already here, and that is creating a nice cluster that is enhancing the economy and creating supply chain opportunities and obviously employment opportunities. The second reason I mentioned is the building is being built in a greenfield currently owned by the county. So the land actually is out of the tax rolls as we speak right now. And it's a greenfield that is not actually being productive. So it will be bringing something that is out of the tax rolls to a productive state and having a new building there. And then, when the actual program ends, will come to the tax rolls and, and be productive. And the third one, as I mentioned, is a diminished set of resources. We are competing with not only a community in the Panhandle that have more resources, but also at the state level, we don't have the same tools that we used to have. In the last 10 years, the legislature has been cutting programs, and we, as a community, as a Space Coast community, we're able to compete only with the local tools that we have in place. In this case, is the ad valorem tax abatement program is one of them. And that concludes my presentation or my short comments, and I'm happy to entertain any questions from the council members.
I'm sure there'll be some. But since I get to go first, then you get to do that.
I know.
I know.
I know.
And I've seen you speak, obviously, at the zone meetings, and I've heard a lot on this, and there's a high competition, a very high competition for this particular business. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. One of them is, and I know the answers, but I kind of want you to repeat them because I'm going to reiterate those. Because there are always going to be those that say we could do something else, we should do something else. And in this case, I have a strong support here. And the first reason is, how many people are they going to employ to start?
As I mentioned, Mr. Mayor, 50 people, they're the proposal for employment with a potential of expansion, but what you have on your application is for 50 employees.
Right,
correct.
and the average salary is going to be about what?
$50,000 per on average. That doesn't include any of the partners. So, the CEO and partners that are relocating are not included on that average, since, they receive participations in other ways that is not included on the average salary.
So those are two big reasons that I'm excited about this. One of them is employing 50 people that will, in years gone by, will grow. $50,000 a year average salary for, not counting the big brass. We don't have a lot of people coming in with that kind of salary. So I'm very excited about that. And then, as already noted over here by several people, but Member Jordan most recently, it gets us again away from just relying on one source of income. I mean, and if there's more than a couple, you've got the tourist industry, you've got the space industry, but now all of a sudden we've got something else going on out there that I want to see us continue to grow. And whatever we break them and add tax valorem, we're going to get that back tenfold in years to come, just with the employment and the salaries that those people will make. And Member Jordan.
Mayor, if I could, I just wanted to remind council, this is just a first reading. This is not a public hearing.
Right.
Council can't make a decision or have an opinion. This is only first reading.
Okay, and it's too late to take that back, but I will.
Well, not an opinion. I'm going to say you can't make a decision.
There won't be a decision because there's still more to come. But I will say that when I sit on those meetings on Friday that I'm assigned to go to, it's hard to listen and say, I don't care.
Correct.
So I do. You do hear things that you think are nice.
Yes.
The things let me just put it that way. The things I heard were nice. The things I heard, a $50,000 salary for 50 people, is hard for me to say, okay, that's all right.
Sure. I just want to advise the applicant.
And I appreciate that.
Right. I was going to, anything, not the applicant. Okay. Anything that is said tonight would have to be said at a public hearing. Tonight is not evidence. You're hearing, not make a decision on that because it's only the first reading.
That's right.
So any of the facts that you're going to make your decision on should be made and heard at the
And then perhaps
public
I
hearing.
can say I'm just reiterating facts. 50 employees, $50,000. I'm reiterating facts.
So council tonight wouldn't have an opinion on how much to give or making decisions.
I don't know anything. I'm
This
not
is
even
just
talking
first
about
reading.
that. I'm really not.
I do need clarification, though. I thought because if I'm asking for a modification to the reading, because I think the reading says 7 years, right? Right? But I'm asking for, what are you doing?
Listen,
Oh,
I
okay.
can't see you.
You can't see me. I'm just wondering, I thought we make the modification for this one and then we go to the second reading. No, we have to wait till the second
You
reading.
won't make a decision. Tonight's a first reading. So council can't decide on how much, on something tonight. It's not a public hearing.
You know, you are such a party pooper. Okay.
So, and just to understand that, we anything we hear on this, anywhere we hear on this is just evidence.
You know, whatever you hear, you hear. At the public hearing is when you will hear the evidence presented that you will vote on at the public
Right,
hearing.
and we're not there.
That's at the next meeting.
We're not there.
This is just a first reading.
Okay, Member Jordan.
Thank you, Richard, for being here.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Just to clarify, because to what member Jordan was saying, some of our items, we do provide feedback. So then when it comes back the second time around, those adjustments can be made. But because this is a quasi judicial item, you're saying we do not do that for
Well,
this item.
Some items, some legislative items where council is creating
Right.
laws, you may ask to come back with options. If you haven't
Correct.
made a decision, you'll say,
Right.
we would like to consider some options, come back with some options. And
Right.
we'll come back to council at a second reading where you're going to vote with some options.
Is that appropriate to do for this item?
No. Well, you can, the option is there in your ordinance to provide a certain percentage in how many years based on the applicant and what their presentation is. So all the options, say, are on the table at the public hearing. You wouldn't make that decision tonight because it's only a first reading. At the public hearing, you'll hear everything and then you have your option on how much of an incentive, percentage-wise, and how many years you want to give. But that will be heard at the public hearing.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify the type of agenda item, I guess, because during some of our items, we do have that discussion, and I think that's what member Jordan was trying to get at, so we can be aware. And so when we do come back, are you saying
Sure,
he
you
should wait on that until next meeting?
What I'm saying is
For us to
tonight
have
you
that
could have as
discussion.
many speakers that want to speak. You can ask as many questions you'd like to ask to get
Right.
informed. But you do not make a decision tonight on
Correct.
the item. That'll be done at the public hearing because that's the next step. This is only the first. Some items have two public hearings. And so if that was one of these items, you had two public hearings, and you would get more information that you could consider. All I'm saying is tonight is a first reading,
Mhm.
not a public hearing.
Okay,
The public hearing will happen at your next meeting, and you'll take cards for, against everybody, the applicant, and then you will weigh all of that when you make your decision at that next meeting.
okay.
All right, let me just interject because we've had this discussion on first readings. This is a first reading. That doesn't mean we can't, because that's what we were discussing the other day in our meeting, that sometimes first readings are good because through discussion, you hear things and say things and get information that may want you to add something or take something away. So I guess what I'm saying is it seems to me that everything that's been said here is a first reading discussion.
Correct, you've heard it. It's just council doesn't make a decision at first readings on anything.
that.
That's all I'm clarifying.
That part I got.
Oh, my goodness.
Not my first rodeo.
I got a question.
Go ahead. Be careful. Go ahead.
I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to be obedient here. So if I suggested that we go from 7 to 10 years, wouldn't it be beneficial for staff to hear that so they can come back at the next meeting and let me know what the consequences of my suggestion would be at the second reading?
Yes, I'm just letting you know, council cannot vote
No, we're not voting.
on anything. I'm just on my point. You
Okay.
can't make a decision tonight
Okay.
on
Well,
that.
okay, so
It's going to be made at the next meeting based on everything you hear at the public hearing.
all right, so I'm assuming staff is listening to us. And so I assume then when the same discussion comes up next time, they will have answers to say, this is the consequences of what you're asking for.
Correct. If you want,
right.
correct. If you want more information at the public hearing based on that discussion, yes.
And then my questions, and when you interjected on the fact that it's a first reading, I was asking some stats and facts to confirm with everybody the number of employees and the average salary.
Yes.
That's just basic information.
Sure. I was just taking the opportunity to tell you not to make a decision. I wasn't cutting you off. I don't have the button.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm just letting you know.
I do understand first readings.
You are the mayor.
No vote. All right. All right. With that, is there anything else you guys want to add to that? Because this was part of the thing we talked about, first readings. Call the cards, please.
Well, excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. Member Robinson.
Couple of questions. Again, I read this, and isn't this a piece of property that is being released by another company that already had asked for, it's in the same location, or, I'm just,
It's in the industrial park. It's just
Correct. It's in the industrial
it's a
park. Is it
vacant
the
piece
same
of
corner?
land, and I believe it's owned by
Excuse me? It- Was it originally asked by another entity to get this variance for
There-
this piece of property?
There was.
Did I read that?
Yes,
Okay.
and that company,
Yeah,
that
I saw
was-
the reason why they,
Right, so they did not have the funding that they needed to get their project going, so they are just not a party to that property anymore.
okay. Next question. Out of the 50 prospective employees, how many is coming down from New York?
Mr. Mayor, regarding the question from Councilmember Robinson, we asked the same question to the company. The company's relocating one of their principals here, and they're, in our question, when we asked that same question to them, they will extend that benefit to to employees that potentially want to make the move here. However, that number is still not set, since you know the relocation is still not final. Could be to the Panhandle or the Space Coast. The number of employees that potentially could relocate from New York to here could change depending on where they actually choose to relocate. Some people are fans of the Panhandle. Some other people like the Space Coast better. So answering.
So that number can be anywhere from 1 to 50. That's what you're telling us?
I don't have the number,
Okay.
council member, but we could ask for more clarification from the business for the second reading.
All right, thank you.
That's a very valid point.
Yeah.
It really is, because
Yeah,
I
I'll read
clearly
this.
wanted to emphasize the 50 jobs, but if 45 of the jobs go to New York, that's not that beneficial. More
That is
evidence.
correct.
Anyway, no, thank you. And again, I know you don't have an answer. It could be 50 and it could be anywhere in between. So good question, sir. Boy, we lit it up now. Vice Mayor Nelson.
And my question is, I understood the zone gave them money, am I right?
My apologies. Could you repeat the question, please?
Did the North Brevard Economic Development Zone also give them money?
Correct. Mr. Mayor, the North Brevard Economic Development Zone already approved a set of incentives as well for these companies. I mentioned we are in a very competitive position, and we're trying to provide the best proposal to land the deal here in the Space Coast.
So what is the zone offering?
I don't have all the details in front of me. They have been approving, they're part of the public record. They were approving public meetings, which I believe the mayor of Titusville is part of that meeting, those meetings. I will just go by remembering some of those. They approve a grant for a site improvement. Again, as I mentioned, it's a green field that needs to be improved. They provide also an incentive for the company as they're buying the land at front to potentially get reimbursements on the cost of the land if they meet the investment and they meet the job creation criteria that they're agreeing with the North Brevard Economic Development Zone.
And what kind of incentives is the community and the Panhandle offering?
We don't have obviously access to all those incentives. What we can mention is that our proposal is probably not going to be close to half of that proposal from the Panhandle, between everything that is being proposed, between at ready site and just different grants for for them to relocate between potentially to use it for buildings and different programs. In our case, what we're trying to do is present, as I mentioned, a competitive proposal, and along the intangibles for the Titusville and Brevard County, that the company is able to choose this location on base of that competitive proposal and the intangibles of living here, working here, and obviously enjoying the area that has a high quality of life, low cost of living, and all the benefits that we all know that from the Space Coast residents know of living here.
So the other community offering, don't know what else.
Not in detail, correct. Normally, in economic development, the incentive packages are confidential information, so it's not something that as the EDC, we have the detailed information about that.
I think I was looking at this over the weekend, and I think for me to make that kind of decision,
I can tell you on the zone package, they deliberated, Mayor, you can back me up on this, for about 2 months, and they have very stringent clawback requirements on their actual grants, and it's post-award, so they have to reach certain thresholds before they get the money.
yeah, I'd just sort of like to have a little more details
We can,
about it.
we can provide, those
Okay.
details of that zone, be prepared for the second reading. But as the city manager mentioned, normally all the incentives that they're presenting, they are performance-based and they're after the fact, meaning that you have to create the jobs, you have to make the investment in order to be eligible for those incentives that are being presented.
Thank you.
All right. Jordan?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that we are in a competitive time now, and from the indications we got at the committee, the Panhandle was definitely throwing some money at them. We didn't know specifically what it was, but one of the things that the Economic Development Zone does and has empowered a lot of companies to come here, remember Blue Origin and others, is that they have to perform before they get the money. And to me, that just makes more sense. If you don't perform, you don't get it. If you don't create the 50 jobs, actually, remember, what's your name? Councilman Robinson actually asked a really good question for sure. My assumption has always been that they're creating a job, and we have to have the people in order for them to do it. So we need to try to get as much information as possible with that, what percentage of the 50 is actually going to come from, because, most of the time, as a business, as I have one, you got to have people who know what they're doing to get the business going. So there has to be some people who are coming from wherever they are. And this is going to be their headquarters. So, but let's not lose the focus of we're competitive. This is economic development, and we don't want to not do something just because we don't have a certain answer. I'm not chastising. I'm not saying you shouldn't ask the question, because you should ask the question, because you're a representative of the people. I'm just saying let's not lose sight of the fact that this is business, and sometimes you don't have all the answers that you need to make. You just have to make an educated guess. But in my mind, what we have going for us is the fact that they don't get until they perform. That to me is the linchpin of the whole thing. It's key. It's one thing if you want to give money out, even with the Titus Landing, the Economic Development Zone, what was it, $8.5 million or so? It was for infrastructure, but they had to perform first before they got the money. Blue Origin, same thing. That's what you do to make sure you maintain and keep the people safe.
And I would just say, attending the zone meetings, they come across, they expect performance, and they're not going to, they're going to do you right. They're hardcore. Let's put it that way. Member Robinson.
And yes, and that number, as far as employment is concerned, and our goal is to look out for our citizens in this city. And knowing that, and I know working around workforce development for a number of years and being in this field, you can easily come up with that number of an average of $45,000. You could easily, and we're trying to get some of the individuals that are unemployed that presently in our city employed. And when you want to bring someone, a company in, you want it to benefit the citizens of this city. And that's what we have to keep our eye on as we set up here and make decisions about certain things. Yes, we have, it brings a company, yes. It's a lot of positives there, but we still have to look at the citizenry of our city, how many of these individuals that are presently unemployed, and I know how the unemployment numbers are came up with, but how many of these individuals that we want to get some type of training, vocational training, how many of the company is going to come in here and train some of our citizens? What percentage of that is that? Yes, I understand they have to bring some people that are familiar with the product that they are producing. But yes, some training should be made and done to get our citizens to work and get them off of them $9.35 jobs and those $10 job and get them up that level. If you're coming out of New York State, and you're making $45,000 a year, you're not making a whole lot of money in New York State. But if you come down to Titusville, you're making a whole lot of money, and we want to advance the citizens of this city. And that's and I want to look at that. I want the answers to those questions.
I agree. I think those are very important numbers that we will get. With that, do we have any cards? Okay, we move to the next item, City Manager.
Next item, we are at 11C. This is the BTR exemption ordinance. This is first reading on ordinance number 11, 2021, and City Attorney will read the ordinance.
Ordinance number 11, 2021, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances to reference business tax receipts exemptions created by the state of Florida by amending Chapter 11, Licenses and Business Regulations, specifically creating Section 11.37.5 exemptions under state law, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, effective date, and incorporation into the code.
This is the first reading of the ordinance. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled to be heard on City Council on April 27th, 2021, beginning at 6:30. And Ms. Busaka is available to answer questions that you may have.
Comments?
I found out that I had a groupie who watches the council meeting, and I promised her I'd pull my ear and say hello to Gail.
Okay, there you go. That's your comment. Council, I see no lights lit up, so any cards? Council, nothing? Okay, we move on to the next one, old business.
Old business, this is 11A. This is advisability for solid waste assessments be moved off of the water bill. And we're requesting, after Kevin gives you a quick presentation, your direction on transitioning the solid waste billing associated with residential properties within the city from the current monthly utility bill to the non-ad valorem tax assessment. The earliest this could take place, as you remember when we did stormwater, it takes a while for us to get all the data. So we're anticipating FY23 before we can get this complete. Kevin?
The city manager said this is just a review of moving the residential side of solid waste to not ad valorem assessments be below the line with stormwater. That would cover multifamily as well as single family, including those covered by dumpsters currently. We would move the entire cycle that are deemed to be residential under the current property appraiser coding. So we're just going to go over a quick presentation tonight. Some of the more of a question and answer type thing, just going through some of the items that we're going to change as we move and update our ordinances and move over to a new billing cycle if the council chooses for us to do that. And then ask for direction to see if we want to take this step. We'll need a formal step taken before the end of this year to make this happen for FY23. So just a quick overview of residential services. We collect garbage and containerized yard on a weekly basis, recycling every other week. We have on-demand bulk for everything else. We also provide street sweeping services, and based on the last year, 60% of all our tonnage collected in the city is in the residential side of the business. So these are just some of the questions we're going to go through. I'm going to go through to kind of help as we're transitioning from if we choose to, from the utility billing to a tax assessment. So who pays the bill? This is a big one that we came through. Currently, the water bill can be opened by a tenant. Obviously, the tax bills are paid by the owners. So that would be a change in transition, similar to what we did with some of the stormwater, where we do have property owners will be taking the assessment as part of your property tax. Another change would be what would happen if a CO'd house comes onto, they obviously won't be on tax roll mid-year or partial years, so we will be adding, choose to move forward, the ability to give them a bill outside of the tax cycle for 3 months, 6 months, however long they're on. They'll get a separate bill from the city for that. Then they'll be added to the tax rolls the next time around with the property appraiser. Currently, they would open a new account through water billing and utility billing. What happens if ownership changes? This is one, as we've discussed and thought about. Currently, that would change with your water bill. Under an assessment, the assessment would hold with the property transition at the next tax roll. So we would not do a partial billing. We would allow that property to be paid for the year. The next tax cycle will pick it up as a new ownership. Another change for us is how we would handle cart deposits. Now that the property pays for the cart in the service, we would no longer collect a cart deposit in opening a residential service. We allow the cart to remain with the home. A little change from now, we collect a deposit, $48 for each cart. We allow that to go away under the assessment system. So what would happen to our customer service? As the city moves residential off of utility bill, we would foresee a share of our payment into customer service going down for solid waste, although we would keep them for commercial collections. We would, a lot of that billing system is set up for the residential side of solid waste. A lot more cart action than there's dumpster. So we would expect to get a little less share in that area. The only other thing that just want to point out that currently the citizens pay a 10% franchise fee for each of our services. That's paid directly from the citizen to the city. We'd be moving that to our solid waste fund, so it'd be a transfer, same amount, percent coming transfer, so that would be rolled into the assessments instead of paid directly by the citizen that doesn't show up in our billing system as a line item under solid waste. So just give you an idea of the fiscal impact related to moving to the assessment roll, similar to with, in fact, the same as with stormwater. 2% of all revenue collected goes to the tax collector. They take that off the top, and then 50 cents per parcel is charged by the property appraiser. We anticipate one additional staffing to handle the billing and the setup of the assessment system. So around $123,000 is the impact. So a couple options for funding that impact, just to give you an idea. We don't know what the savings will be in customer service until we get to that budget year. Assessment of the franchise fee, we're currently at 10%, or any other transfers that are leaving solid waste currently. Or it can be paid through a rate increase. Around 2.3% of our current budget would cover that rate increase. This is a year out, so we will have rate increases probably this year as well. So that 2.3 will go up or down slightly. Then just to kind of cap it all with the steps to approval to move to assessment, prior to January 1st of 2022, we will need a resolution to authorize the assessment. It will signify the city's wish to be on the tax roll billing for the following year. We would enter interlocal agreements with the Brevard County tax collector and property appraiser to execute non-ad valorem assessment. And we would target July of next year for amending the solid waste code to allow for this assessment and any additional changes in the code that would take place for this billing. And then the second reading of that ordinance would be August of next year, which also be adoption of the first rates going into FY23 tax collections.
Good presentation, and thank you. And as I look at this, every time this comes up, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me that the council sees this as a common sense move and a benefit to our citizens. And so I'll stand by that and see what the council says. Member Stokel.
Yeah, this was something I was definitely interested in, especially as we get our water bill so high, but there's other things on the water bill in addition to the water. So my question though is in regards to the additional financial impact, I guess. You said that we might have a reduce in customer service, and then you're saying we might need to add somebody. Could that just be, do you really anticipate us having an additional expense, or could their responsibilities just essentially be transitioned?
Right, too early to tell.
Okay, that's my thinking.
You probably could be, but it depends on if our financial software can do the type of billing we want to do separately, or whether that's going to need to be a separate person within solid waste.
Okay.
We also anticipate that we would take away the customer service aspect, so the phone calls that currently route to customer service or carts would go to our staff instead. So again, that could be rolled into one of our existing staff. That could be rolled to customer service. we'll vet all that out as we get closer to building the cost for that budget.
Okay. And then these other additional costs, I know when we did stormwater, that was a separate bill. So I feel like the postage was probably similar, regardless if we were paying it or now paying it to the property appraiser. And then I guess, I don't know if this is a dumb question, but $66,000 for the tax collector to do that. Do we feel like that is worth that amount of money? Because that's what I was hoping that this would also, in addition to being better, educational and informative for our citizens when they get their bill, that it's truly a water bill. But I also wasn't anticipating having to pay for that, I guess, to happen.
That's their agreement is 2%.
Okay.
They run the tax roll, so there's really nothing we can get around that.
And that's what they charge the other cities and the county that does this. So.
Yeah, so we certainly can, our goal would be to make it neutral and not see a difference anyway, but I just can't, going into it, tell you that I can make it zero.
Right. But I guess it's saving, would it be fair to say it's saving us some work on our end with our bill that we're doing then, since they're going to be in charge of it?
It would save us on collection, yes.
Okay. So it probably, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. I would just like to ask when we're spending money.
Okay.
So an example, we have 255 water bills now that are overdue. So when you're not paying your water bill, you're not paying solid waste either. So these are now on the tax roll that has to be paid as part of your taxes.
So similar to what happened with stormwater.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, so we need to provide direction, so we need a vote on this.
I think if you could just provide, I think we're hearing that you want us to proceed with this. We just don't want to, this is advisability. We don't want to drive on if you guys aren't interested in it, because as you remember with stormwater, it's very intensive to get all this stuff in place and timing of certain things. So we're just hopeful that you give us direction that says go or don't go, and then we'll proceed.
We do have one card.
I'll let Member Robinson go first.
Yes, I think you should, and I've had numerous conversations about this, because it will give us a better platform to stand on to explain the water bill to our to the citizens of the city, and they will get that quick glance. Yes, you know, the reality of the water bill is that it's the water bill, you know, but to be able to understand it better, it is very important for all of us, you know, to be able to do that. I think with this particular change, even though it's at that $66,000 tag to it, I think it will be beneficial to the citizens of our city in the long run.
Thank you. Call the card, please.
Nathan Slusher.
For the record, Nathan Slusher, 860 Allendale Street. And I came to this specific section for clarification, and I got it. I understand what's going on now, and I'm totally against this. This definitely affects my company straight as it is, because it affects every rental unit in the city. Because when tenants no longer pay their bills, the landlords will raise their bills. They will raise their rent, which it's direct inflationary. Because as rental units raise their rates for the rentals, then the apartment complexes that this doesn't affect, they always raise their rates to match the housing rentals in the area. That's common. So if we increase their rates directly, because the owners are now responsible for the tenant's trash, the apartment complexes who are going to get a break on this because they're already paying, they're going to raise their rates to match it as well. That one I can promise. I can't promise, but also it doesn't clarify if a house is on the market, they're still paying. If a house sits on the market for 10 years, they're still paying for trash every year, even though it's a product they're not using. Currently, we can just turn our carts. We hand our carts back over. We don't pay for trash that we're not using. So that's another direct cost that gets missed. And I don't know if it handles the people in the city who have multiple carts. Like my family, I have 7 of us. We have 2 trash cans, 2 recycle bins, if property tax is only covered for one, then and there's no customer service, how do we go about getting a second one?
Stop the clock. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, to the question about the extra cards, we would not designate a separate fee like we do now for cards. So the 435 additional cards we do have out in the city would be rolled into the current rate structure. We wouldn't charge the extra card any longer because we won't have the ability to charge individual billing codes any longer. So the total solid waste fee will cover those 400 extra deployed cards.
And if the next person who moves in to work at the new manufacturing plant needs 2 cards?
Yeah, we would still provide the service.
still
What
provide
would
it?
happen is if that becomes a overwhelming cost, then the solid waste fees will go up the following year to accommodate the extra cart fees. But we already anticipate having to roll those together.
And that one I can understand. That's
Yeah,
a really simple product or a problem to solve.
Yeah.
The rental rates going up is the issue that I'm most concerned about.
And to answer the question about paying for service that the home wouldn't be getting, every property that's developed in the entire Brevard County pays a disposal fee to the landfills. So when that home goes empty, they continue to pay a disposal fee. They'll pay the same fee as occupied house as an empty. All the non-ad valorem assessments continue. So even though you're not there, yes, this fee structure continues. If it were to be cut off and we'd have to anticipate losing customers, we have to raise our rates to those that are left on, because we do have to anticipate that. You're right, in utility system, it cuts on and off. An availability fee is usually charged. So when a business goes out for a dumpster is taken away, there is a $22 charge imposed per month for the availability of the service to come back. So we do have some similarities in place now for this, but yeah, the tax rate would say the tax rate be prepaid by the property and then rolled to the next year. And if it's not paid, it'd be collected under the tax collector's authorities.
No, you're good.
Start clock. Go ahead. That's just if you want to continue to talk. Thought that discussion was worthy.
No, I think I hit my point. I'm just very concerned about the rental market. And I'm also, I understand it takes time, but I feel like this is a far more important decision than a one-time and then a moving planning forward for the next year. We're just going to tell people, yes, we're planning on.
No, we'll have 2 public hearings.
2 public hearings?
Yeah, we'll have.
Okay, that is important. That I needed to know.
You'll see this 3 times because we'll come with actually probably closer to 4, but you'll see a resolution that we're going to change our billing system. This should be declared by the end of the year if we move forward. You'll see the interlocals with the 2 Brevard County entities that would have to come back to the council for approval, which would include their fees, their structure. And then we'll come back with 2 full ordinances that will be related to the solid waste code has to be adjusted. And then the second ordinance, if we follow stormwater, the second ordinance rewrite came with the rate structure. So that would be our rate declaration for the first year. So there'll be at least 4 opportunities to have this heard again before it's adopted into what would be the 2020 tax roll.
Correct.
Good. Thank you so much. Any other cards? City manager.
Okay, I think you're good. Okay, we're on to item 11B, and this is the construction of the award of the contract for the construction of the Morning Dove water treatment solids train upgrade project. In 2016, the Water Resources Department conducted a solids processing evaluation. The evaluation concluded that the existing solids processing train at the Morning Dove facility does not provide the redundancy and operational flexibility needed to properly operate the plant and disposal of solids created as a byproduct of the water treatment in a cost-effective manner. To address these deficiencies, the study identified specific process improvements to improve the reliability and operational processing capability and cost effectiveness. The City of Titusville selected Wright Pierce in 2007 to provide engineering and design services for the Morning Dove Treatment Plant Solids Train Upgrade Project. The design efforts included plans and specifications in the demolition of existing dewatering building, replacement of existing dewatering trailer equipment with vacuum drum dewatering equipment, construction of a new dewatering building, construction of a secondary sludge thickener, and replacement of existing recovery pond, along with all associated upgrades. The bid for the above described work was advertised on January 13th, 2021. Then there were 541 vendors notified, 49 plane holders. 4 bids were submitted. The bid was opened on 3/12/21. Wright Pierce Engineering of record reviewed the apparent, was reviewed and was the low bidder and determined they met all the qualification for the bid. The references were also checked with all the positive remarks. It is recommended to award the contract or the bid to Sawgrass Incorporated of Jacksonville, Florida for the Morning Dove Solids Train Upgrade Project in the amount of $4,753,000 and authorize the mayor to execute the contract subject to the final approval by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And Sean is here to answer questions that you may have and on this matter.
Thank you, sir.
Council, any questions? Staff, comments?
I just wanted to take a moment to thank our engineering group and purchasing and contracting. This has been it's a really big project for the water plant. We haven't had a project this size of the water plant in, at least in my tenure. So we're real excited about it. We put a lot of time and effort into it. And we've got a really good bid and a really good price, as well as I think city manager highlighted, or if he hadn't, I'll just repeat, this is SRF funded. And so the interest rate for the loan for the funding is 0.34%. And we're also able to gain a 20% principal forgiveness as part of the SRF loan. So that turns out to be a grant for the city. So this is a big win for the water plant. We're really looking forward to getting started.
Very good. Thank you. Council, any comments, questions? I see none. Any cards? I see no cards. Council, do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the award of contract for construction of the Morning Dove Water Treatment Plant Solids Train Upgrade Project.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. Roll call vote.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City manager.
On to 12A, which is the ad valorem tax abatement for tax year 2020 and ground lease incentive for professional aircraft accessories. Approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption continuation of ordinance 5-2011 for professional aircraft accessories at 100% for the tax year 2020 and approve the ground lease incentive payment authorized by the April 26, 2011 Memorandum of Understanding between the city and professional aircraft accessories in the amount of $12,500.
Staff, anything? Council, any questions for staff? Yes, Vice Mayor Nelson. Member Robinson.
Oh, no question.
All right, we're back down to 0. Any cards on this? Do I have? Okay. All right, so we are ready for no cards. Okay, do we have a motion? Go ahead, he's not paying attention.
You want me to go ahead? Move to approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption for professional aircraft accessories at 100% for the tax year 2020 and approve the ground lease incentive payment authorized by the April 26, 2011 Memorandum of Understanding between the city and PAA.
We just read that again. And we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Member Jordan? Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City manager.
On to 12B. This is tax year 2020 ad valorem tax abatement for Barn Light Electric. Approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption continuation of ordinance 19/2013 for Barn Light Electric at 85%.
Very good. Staff? Council? Cards? Motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the tax year 2020 ad valorem tax abatement for Barn Light Electric.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Roll call vote.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager.
On to 12C. This is the ad valorem tax abatement for tax year 2020 for Bricks Project Brewery. Approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption, which is the continuation of ordinance 27, 2015 for tax year 2020 for Bricks Project Brewery at 100%.
Council? Member? Question? Okay, Vice Mayor Nelson?
Move to approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption for tax year 2020 for the Bricks project.
And I have a second. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Diesel?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously.
On to 12D. This is the continuation of ad valorem tax abatement for Paragon Plastics. Approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption, continuation of ordinance 23, 2015 for tax year 2020 for Paragon Plastics at 60%.
No? No, I'm gonna start skipping. So, Council? Member Robinson?
I want to make the motion to approve it.
Okay, before you do that, cards? No cards, take a motion.
Make the motion to continue the ad valorem tax abatement. Paragon Plastic.
I got a motion, I got a second, roll call vote.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan? Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Motion passes. City Manager.
And just want to make sure you clarified it was at 60%.
And let me clarify, I didn't get the word in. Motion passes unanimously.
Yes, sir.
Unanimously.
On to 12E, which is ad valorem tax abatement for tax year 2020 for Eckler Industries, Project Circle. Approve the economic development ad valorem tax exemption, continuation of ordinance 18, 2013 for tax year 2020 for Eckler Industries, Project Circle at 90%. And during your preparation, we went back to clarify that they have in fact met all of the requirements to get this exemption.
Very good. Very good. Council? I see none. Cards?
No, sir.
Motion? I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Roll call vote.
90%.
At 90%.
Member Robinson?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson? Member Stokel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. City Manager.
Proposal to develop a code enforcement lien amnesty program. The code enforcement lien amnesty program would provide a temporary period of time for property owners to submit an application in order to obtain a reduction in fines and release the liens if the property is found to be in compliance with the city codes and ordinances. The amnesty program may potentially be available to all residential and commercial property owners with outstanding code enforcement liens in the city of Titusville. Properties would be inspected to be confirmed that there are no code violations existing. If an application is approved, the property owner will have 30 days to pay the reduced amount. If the reduced amount fine is not paid, then the lien and the original fine amount will remain against the property. An application window of 1 year is proposed for the program. If demolition, cleanup, and cost of the nuisance abatement costs were involved, those cannot be waived. The cost must be paid along with the reduced fine amount. The ultimate goal of this program is to get the property in compliance, not revenue generation. And what we were asking council is this is a temporary thing to help clean up our code liens for during the COVID period for 1 year. And this is advisability for us to come back with a ordinance for you to consider.
Staff, comments, guidance?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have
created this program based on my review of other jurisdictions throughout the state of Florida where this type of program is in play. There's variations in almost every city. No one program is the same as another because each city, of course, is unique. There are a couple of things that I would like to ask you for your opinion and feedback as we create the resolution that would approve a lien amnesty program if indeed you are in favor of it. What this program is designed to do is to encourage compliance of properties that have old code enforcement liens, new code enforcement liens, whatever it may be. If the property is not in violation, this would be an incentive, a one-time deal where for approximately a year, we could go up to 18 months if you think that would be appropriate. Then we would open this program up to any property owner who desires to get lien abatement through showing us that they are in compliance. There would be a couple of minimum factors that are required, such as utility payment of any existing liens that would be required, any hard costs that the city incurred in creating the code enforcement case that would be required to be paid. All of the city's hard costs would be recovered, but the fine amount, which could be very substantial, greater than the value of the property in many cases, would be reduced or waived. Based on some of the cities that I've seen, I would recommend a maximum amount be collected for each lien, such as $1,500, maybe $1,000. We could have a sliding scale, or we could have a flat amount. Those are some of the options that I would like feedback on. The report to council says 30 days to pay the reduced amount. I would recommend 60. I decided that after we created the report, 60 days would be a good amount of time for someone to pay whatever that small amount is that we decide on. I think that we could come up with a formula where either there's a tier like Palm Bay. In your agenda packet, you see that, or perhaps you saw that there's a sliding scale based on the total amount owed for the fine, going from perhaps $500 to $1,000 to $1,500, depending on that value of the fine. Or we could have a percentage, such as 3, 5, or 10% of the fine, not to exceed either $1,000 or $1,500. So those are some of my thoughts, and I'd appreciate any feedback you may have.
Member Robinson.
Yes, I think it's a great idea. I think it's looking out for our citizens. And the only thing that, and I know that you will do this, is that, just put it out there and talk to them about it, so that they will understand that it's coming up. And the benefit of it, it's for them. And I think that you can do that sufficiently. I think it's a great direction to go.
My intention would be to create the program upon approval and then to send a letter to any existing property owner that has a lien against it to let them know about the program. At the very beginning of the program, giving them 12 months to come into compliance, I think is an adequate amount of time if they're not already in compliance.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Vice Mayor?
I would just say I like the sliding scale. That seems to be sliding scale plus cost seems to be the appropriate way to go. I would suggest to you.
And we can always, once it's in place, we'll set a year, and as we're approaching the year, if we want to continue it, we'll give you a report back of how many participated in it and see if you'd like to continue it or not, based on where we're at with COVID.
And I think what some people don't understand, and it certainly here, is that it's not about the money. It's about getting things, up to code and getting things cleaned up. And I can tell you again, I go back to that Saturday meeting that we had, then, and the community was in here, and there were several people talking about that. It seems forever to get anybody up to code. I think what you're doing here is making an effort to make it happen, because we can throw out fine after fine, and I can name places, and so can you. We've got all kinds of fines, 6-digit fines, but nothing's changed. I like what you're trying to do is make something happen, and I like it. I could go with the sliding scale, and I can go with whatever you guys feel is right, but I think that the effort to make something happen, and it's not even about the money, it's about getting it done. I like that. Anyone else? Okay, so we need to just give an advisement or take a vote or make a motion?
I think Chelsea's got enough information. There's nobody opposed to this
No, I don't see that.
advisability that I could see.
Nope.
So we'll
We do have one card.
And the card.
Nathan's.
Never mind now.
Yes.
Don't go, no, don't come up here just because you need to come up here. Don't. There you go. You're good. You're good. Okay, then the advisement is we like it, move forward.
So just to reiterate, tonight, we're taking into consideration BTR for businesses and getting the liens as a result of COVID. So we are beginning to try to help our citizens with this. Yes, sir.
That again, City Manager, it is, how are you going to determine, other than time, that it's COVID related?
Well, right now, both programs we're proposing are 1 year.
Okay.
And then if in fact we're still struggling as a result of COVID, we'll come back to you and say, look, we think we ought to continue with either one of those programs.
Okay. Very good. We move on, sir.
Okay, sir, we're on to the mayor's report.
I would, and mayor and council, I would simply say that I appreciate the fact that I've been able to be busy. In some cases, I find out the day before. I went out to, I got a call yesterday to come out to Astronaut High School. They had the POW flag. I forgot what they call it, but it's a brigade of former Vietnam veterans. And every school, this is really kind of neat to know, every school in Brevard County, and they said at the presentation today, we're the only county in the nation. But every school in Brevard County will have a POW flag flying over their school, of course, under the American and state flag. And today I was invited to attend the astronaut designation and the presentation and ceremony, and that was very nice. And earlier in the week, no, that was last week. I get them crossed when it's Tuesday. Last week I had the opportunity to go talk to some kids at Oak Park about FSA and mostly just get to know them and play kickball. And I determined that, boy, kickball's a lot harder than it used to be. those bases are getting harder and harder. Yeah, and just things like that. So I think that I know this council is good that way too, that you guys get out and about, and I think it's important that we do that. So with that, any council member want to throw something out there? I think Ms. Stokel, Member Stokel.
I have a couple items, actually. One, I just want to say thank you, Mayor, on handling our citizen situation earlier. I support you in that decision. I feel like our meetings run a lot more effectively if we do not allow citizens that are not on point what they should be talking about to speak. So I just want to say I support your decision and thank you for the way you're running the meeting.
Thank you so much. I probably needed that.
No, I appreciate it, and I think it helps us to run more effectively. I think it's appreciative of the citizens that are wanting to speak as well. The other thing I have is I'd like to seek advisability on an item kind of related to a couple things we talked about, more so on blight in our community. I was doing some research on foreclosure properties and vacant properties, and they are required to register with the city. And right now we have over 1,000 properties that are not registered. So I'd like to look into the process of what the city does in regards to if they're not registering appropriately, what are we taking action on? Because I do know there are companies out there that if we don't have the capabilities to do that or the staffing to do that, that will do that for us. And then whatever they are able to collect or get into compliance, they would take a percentage only off of what they are able to collect. So I'm really curious to see what that process looks like if that's something that we're interested in. So if you guys support me in that advisability, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's an concept.
It is. There's
Curious what it.
So basically, if they're not registering appropriately, oftentimes they're banks. What they will do, essentially collection agencies or law firms will go after and get them into compliance, and then how they make money are based off of whatever contract. We would put it out for bid if this is something we wanted to do, and then they make their money based off what they're able to proactively go out and collect on our behalf, essentially. And with us having over 1,000 properties, I would really be interested, especially since blight keeps coming up in our city. to see if we can kind of work toward that.
I would be interested, not saying yes or no, but I would be seeing city find out.
That's why I want the
Sample process.
advisability, yes, to see what we're doing right now.
Oh. I'm getting faces made at me. Okay, I'm closer.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm closer. So I would be interested in seeing, I mean, it sounds a little crazy.
Yeah,
As an
there's
attorney-
cities that are doing it right now, so that's where I'm kind of,
As an attorney, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm hoping
And
that's not my meal ticket.
we have a contract right now with somebody?
Yes. We have
Never mind.
The company is called Pro Champs.
Okay, I
And-
asked about this and you guys said we didn't.
And it's called the vacant.
You wanted to go have a meeting with this company, so we had already had a contract in place.
So
Seems like they
it's
wouldn't
called the
make-
Vacant Property Registry.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
do collect 50% of
Okay.
what they collect from the registration fees from the vacant properties. And they also coordinate with the property manager any maintenance that needs to be done.
Okay, so how effective have they been, and do we know that? That's what I'd be curious to see, is how effective is this company in getting, if we have still over 1,000 not registered?
Where are you getting the 1,000 property number from?
From another company that I had reached out to.
Their competitor?
Potentially, I don't know. I was just researching it
Okay.
and,
So the code enforcement department obviously works with Pro Champs, and
Okay.
we can find out information from them. But what information do you want us to get?
I guess how many properties have they been able to get registered, or how many fees have we been able to collect, I guess, is what I'd be interested in seeing. So if we have these banks not registering their vacant properties when they're supposed to be, how effective has ProChamp been, like, within the past year at getting them either to pay their fees or getting them to register?
I can certainly reach out to them to see if
Okay.
they can generate a report and provide that as soon as it's available.
Okay. And how many years have we been using them?
It's been since before I started with the city, around the 2010-12 housing
Okay.
market collapse was when the vacant registry program was created.
Okay. And do we put that out for bid?
Well, there's only been this one program or one contract with this company since it was created.
Okay.
And I would assume that it was put out for bid again. This was before I started here at the city.
Okay. Do we know how many years the contract is good for before it should go out to bid again?
If it's currently in renewal, then I don't know if it's required to be out to bid or unless
Okay.
there's a problem with the contract. But
Okay.
we could review that.
Okay. No, that's what I'd be curious to see. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Nelson.
Okay, I have a crazy idea.
Again.
It's not quite 10 o'clock yet. It's
That's
not.
late.
I know, Robert, I know.
That was 7 o'clock.
So I was actually doing some research the other day for a Rotary grant. And when I was looking at it, what the research was saying is that 40% of white kids do not know how to swim. 50% of Latino kids don't know how to swim. And 70% of black children do not learn to swim. And so we started thinking about it. And, you know, the citizens are always saying, we would like to have amenities. When my kids were growing up, Titusville High had their pool open. And my understanding is for our citizens to use their pool, that they want a large amount of money, something like $40,000, which I thought was.
Rotary pool that we.
Well, we were doing a Rotary grant to teach kids to swim, and working with the YMCA. But I'm like, that just seems crazy to me because, you know, our tax dollars are supporting the school. And yet our kids are no longer allowed to use that pool. And way back when, we had two other pools, which would be Madison and Jackson, and those have been filled in. So the only pool we have right now is Titusville, and our kids cannot use it. I talked to the people from Parks and Rec, and they're actually busing their kids to Merritt Island because they don't want to pay $40,000 to Titusville High School. So we talked about what it would take to actually build a pool that stars just a lot of money. I think Mr. Larice would have a heart attack at that point.
Well, it's just not the initial build cost, it's
Yeah.
the ongoing maintenance
Yeah.
and liability associated with it as well. So,
They gave me a price of
I was
$100,000.
just curious, Robert, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Parish Health Center, Health and Fitness Center?
Yeah.
Yes. sir.
Yeah, Parish.
Because, I mean, I think we have some existing.
Yeah, we're closing, fitness center.
Yeah.
And we're moving to Target. But that, the swimming pool itself actually is by certain people. I think Parish, I happen to know the chairman. I think Parish would be amenable, coming up with some kind of.
I would just, we talk about the kids not having anything to do, and drowning being the second cause of death for kids. And I'm like, we're living in Florida with all the lakes and the rivers and everything around us, and yet our kids aren't learning how to swim.
No, I like the idea, and it's going to be available, sure. And we need to.
We need to talk.
Yeah, talk about it. for
Okay.
Sure.
Well, I brought it up tonight because I thought maybe between the five of us and you guys, we could sort of think about that.
I'm going to throw out there, because this was nobody's probably been closer to this issue than me as an athletic director at Titusville High School, because I kept thinking that the next sport that was going to be in trouble in Brevard County was swimming. There's just nowhere to swim. And it's not, Titusville's very fortunate, but, during the season, and I can't tell you exactly how it works now, but, astronaut may have to share it. Space Coast may have to come up and share it. There was a time when, Cocoa was coming up to share it. You're putting 4 and 5 teams in a pool. That's, you can't share a basketball court with 4 or 5 teams and get the work you need. So I was thinking down the road, if this was ever to become a reality, some sort of coalition with Brevard Public Schools too, because somewhere down the road, somebody has to realize if we're going to continue to have swimming as a sport, and that's the minor part of things when it comes to swimming, you got to have more pools than we've got.
Yeah.
And, if they happen to shut down another one or two, because I can tell you the history of Jackson and Madison was simply the pools started leaking from the bottom. And so ultimately, after fixing the bottom a couple times and them leaking again, so that's it. Covered them up. We're done. And, so I certainly agree with the problem. I've seen the problem, and I think that we're going to solve this problem, I don't think it's going to be a city financial ability. But if we contribute it, I'm not even proposing, I'm just saying, you've got Brevard Public Parks and Recreation, and you've got Brevard Public Schools. And I'll leave it at that, because they could work together a little bit more.
And the second suggestion I would have, and when my daughter was here, she was teaching swimming at the Y, and it's a very robust program. And she shared with me that a lot of the kids that were there were scholarship kids. They were underserved, from the underserved community. Those classes that she taught were full every time. So, and the Y's very good at putting together instructions, especially, there's the young, brand new mother learn to swim the kids, at 2 months old and all that. So that would be my other suggestion, is to tap into existing programs, because I know the Y is struggling as well through COVID, now that they're back functioning.
That was what the grant was for, was swim lessons for low-income kids at the Y. But then once you get them where they're starting to swim, they're wanting to swim, and I think the program we were looking at was Swim Safe, which is eight lessons for the kids of the Y. But then where do the kids go?
Sure, and then just to add on, after the instructions, if a kid's unaccompanied at whatever age, they have to pass a certain swim skills ability test, and they're given an armband, and so the lifeguard knows what their swimming abilities are. So I think it's a pretty sound program.
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. But, you know, thinking of it when my kids were young, you know, they were always at Titusville High School where they, their swim team met, or at Royal Oak Pool, and they were always in the water. But we don't have that ability to have the kids in the water the way that generation had.
And then my third offer, and I don't mean to belabor this point,
yeah.
but I know Misty Belford is very involved with a
Yeah.
swimming program for youth. And, you know, she would be
She's
a great,
also getting one of her grants.
yeah, she would be a great source to try to.
You good?
And do you know, I know both of you probably, Titusville Rotary built that pool, and maybe that's the way to, if you could get Titusville High. They raised them.
Basically, excuse me, guys, but we built the pool.
Titusville Rotary, the pool at Titusville High, the funds were raised by Titusville Rotary Club.
So basically, we paid for the pool, we're paying taxes.
You can't use it.
Don't go there. And that was 1957.
Okay.
I was just being born.
That was a Rotary, Titusville Rotary project.
Okay, I won't
And
go
it
there.
only
I never heard
cost
that.
It only cost
I never heard
$2,000 to build it back then in '57, okay? So,
Yeah.
it's a difference.
I don't know what year it was, but I think.
I'm going to research that because that's, you know, I can tell you the gym was put up in 1958. So if the pool, I don't think the pool was probably there before that. So, okay, Member Jordan.
Okay.
No, I have no.
I want to
I was
thank
going to call on you, but you started talking.
these two gentlemen, you know, other than, you know, I tell them that every time I see him, his hair is a different color. But it is wonderful. That's what I say to you, you know, I'm not, and it's not an insult. It's just a compliment. I love your participation in city government. Thank you for that, and I wish that more of our citizens would get involved and know about what's going on in the city. Okay, so, and thank you for that. That's
I
what
think that's
wanted
two
to
in a row because I think I ended the meeting with you guys last time. And I don't know if you guys remember it, but I knew you already, but talked to these guys at the Saturday thing. They've been at every meeting since, and they stayed to the very end. But what I really like Member Robinson just said, you contribute, and you're very positive, and if you come up with something that doesn't agree, it's a discussion, and we move on. I appreciate that. All right, is there city?
Yes, sir. I actually have a
Manager
couple
first.
items. Traditionally, your summer recess is during the month of June. So we would suggest that you cancel your regularly scheduled June 22nd meeting. So that we'll provide council a recess from June 9th through June 12th.
Do I have a motion? Got a motion in one motion, 5 seconds. We'll go with Stokel. Roll call vote.
Member Jordan. Mayor Diesel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson. Member Stokel.
Yes.
Member Robinson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And as we enter into the budget workshop, I've listed some primary and secondary dates for your workshops. And these are in conjunction with the school board. We have to know when their meetings are proposed and all that. So these are the proposed dates that staff was able to come up with in coordination with the other entities. So if you could take a look at those and let me know what your fancy is on these dates.
Want that right now?
Yes, sir.
How do I
can
how do
read
I
it
check
for
my
you.
calendar right now?
If you guys are closed out, So for our budget workshop, what we're proposing is either Wednesday, August 11th, or Thursday, August 12th at 5 PM.
So yes, they have, I guess they're primary and secondary for this, and I would just like to say I'm all in favor of all the primary ones. So for this one, I'd be in favor of the Wednesday, August 11th at 5, as opposed to the Thursday.
I like Wednesday.
Yeah,
Okay?
that works.
So for your budget workshop, it'll be Wednesday, August 11th at 5 PM. Your first public hearing is proposed for either Tuesday or Wednesday, September 7th or September 8th at 5:30.
How do you guys feel about Wednesday? Well, you just.
I kind of like the Tuesday since we're already on the Tuesday schedule from council meetings, so it's
Okay.
just we'll just have 3 in a row on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think, or 2.
The workshop it really depends on your input. The first workshop's generally the longest. The first public hearing will make adjustments to whatever you had at the workshop. And what we generally do is come back with our unfunded requirements and let you know where we're at. So the first workshop's pretty quick, and then the final one is just putting finishing touches on your budget, and that one's normally less than an hour easily.
So what was the second date? Sorry.
Tuesday.
So the first public hearing will be Tuesday, September 7th at 5:30. And then the second and final public hearing, the two proposed dates are Wednesday, September 15th, or Thursday, September 16th at 5:30.
Wednesday, yeah, would be my preference.
Okay, so everybody good on Wednesday? So Wednesday, September 15th at 5:30 will be your final public hearing for that. And subject to your questions, I have some informational items for you, and that's it.
City Attorney. With that, meeting adjourned.